So we spent an afternoon working on the V4 today. We started working on getting the variable speed drive pulled off of it. I'd say we're about halfway through. The componentry is coming off okay. We got some big splines that we have to deal with getting everything slid off. But we did find out what that 3-inch socket was for. So you remember that happened to be sitting on one of the pallets, and when it comes to removing this ring gear, that is a 3-inch nut. So having that socket came in really handy. Now my problem is it's on there pretty solid. I tried using the porta power and there's just not enough there to get it to budge. So the next step is we're probably going to heat that up and see if we can get it to expand and pull off of there. I get that off and I finish getting this drive off the variable speed taken off. Then we can get it hung up on an engine stand and get it up out of the way. So that is where we're at with it. We're going to put in a few more hours here and see if we can get that flywheel off and get this thing up on an engine stand. We'll bring you back. So while the paint was curing on the RTE, I decided to come over, do a little bit on the V4 to see if I could get it up on the engine stand. Now, I took all the variable speed setup off of this side, and that gained me access to the back of the flywheel. And the flywheel I've had soaking in penetrating oil. I tried to press it off with the porta power and that didn't work. So I gave it a couple swings and we have moved. Oh, we're close. Oh, there she goes. Sweet. I don't know if that's going to be quite enough for the engine stand yet, though, but we're about to find out. Look at all that. I hope so, because that's right on the crank. That ain't coming off. So, that could be a problem. Well, I'll get it over and mock it up, and then I'll bring you back. All right, so I got everything off that needed to come off. I've got it bolted up to the engine stand holster, and I'm going to get it put on the stand here. All right, it seems to have accepted it. All right, gonna have to be really gentle with it because it's wobbly. It's carrying a lot of extra weight right now with the top end on it, but eventually we'll get that tore off and then should be no problem. The nice part about this engine is it's much more compact, whereas these inlines stick way further out on the stands and get way heavier when you build up the top end. So I think this little engine stand will be just fine for what we need to do with this. It's not like it's going to move far or move often, but a little tippy. A little tippy. Okay, I'm going to get this thing pushed into place, get some cleanup work done, and then we'll actually come back and talk about the engine a little bit. So, this is a Minneapolis Moline V4. It is a 206. It's 3.4 liters. The bore and stroke are 3.625 by 5 inches. It puts out 48 horsepower. It has an oil bath air cleaner. The rated RPMs at top end is 1,550. It originally ran off of a 6-volt system, and it originally held 19 quarts of coolant. So it is essentially that 206 engine. That's an inline, that's a V. So the crankcase is different. The heads and jugs are not. They're just split. I'm pretty sure this one is seized. There is absolutely no turning that crank. So the idea is, once I get this bench cleaned off, which that's all the rest of the components for the R, most of that is going to be back on the tractor next week. But until that one is completely done and this bench is clear, I won't be touching this. This is just getting it off the ground, getting everything cleaned up, and then giving a little intro into what this project will hopefully turn into. So once the bench is clear, then I will, later this fall, late September into October, when everything else is winding down, I'll start to tear this thing down. Starting with taking that pulley off and then getting that inspection plate off. The covers on the tappets were loose, so I already pulled them off and kind of took a look. And the first thing that I noticed is that I am missing all of my valves. All the valves are gone. So then I looked a little bit closer, and I don't have any bolts holding this head on. And it's the same with the other side. So this head has been off. Like both of them have been off. The valves are missing in this one too. I'm not sure why this thing got put out to pasture. I'm hoping that there's nothing wrong with the case. If there's something wrong with the crankcase, then that's going to be the end of this project. But if the crankcase is okay, then I'm hopeful that I'm going to be able to rebuild this. The data plate was removed. which I think was one of this guy's signatures that he was done with it. He would cut the data plate off and put it on his displays in his garage. I don't see anything on the outside that gives me any indication that there's damage to this crankcase. I haven't been underneath it yet, so there could be a surprise under there, but the sidewalls so far, I don't see any frost damage. I see crappy paint, but I don't see any frost damage. So I'm hopeful that we have a good crankcase. I'm hopeful that it just sat with all these open ports and water got into the cylinders and froze up. That would be best case scenario, because if I can pull 4 cylinders, 4 connecting rods, and have a good crank and a good cam, then I would say there's a 99.9% chance that I will get this thing cleaned up and running. Jugs and blocks, again, these are the same as what would go on the inline, so they're out there. If there's something wrong with any of these, I've got replacements for the most part. I'm just not sure if I've got the right ones as far as stroke goes. So that would be the only difference. So with the pieces that I have, hopefully I can piece the top end of the engines back together, and we can have something that runs. Gaskets might be a little tougher to come by. The top end, again, it's the same as the inline for the head gasket. Those were separate. It wasn't one piece. So I did it multiple times on the 335. The bottom one, I don't believe is separate. It might be, but that's just a felt gasket, so we could potentially cut one in half if need be, or I could make one. So the end goal with this, so these were built between 1953 and 1963. Most were painted the energy yellow. That's kind of the color that we've got on here right now, is that energy yellow. I don't know what color I would paint it, but that's getting way ahead of things. The overall goal would be, I'd like to make it into a power unit. You see a lot of the inline power units because those were manufactured as power units. They had side panels and everything that went with it, and a lot of them were used for driving pumps, big field pumps, generators, a lot of different things. And what I would have in mind for this is probably a generator. I've got a generator that has a gearbox, so the generator needs to run at 1500 RPM, and then the gearbox that I have would allow this to run at that 500 RPM lower idle, and then speed that generator up. So I could put some kind of wheelbase under it, extend it out, run the generator. I'd have to find a bolt-on PTO. So the PTO that came off is the 1 5/8, I think is what it is, and I'd need to go down to the 1 3/8. The other thing that I could potentially do is use the hydraulic pump that's on here as a miniature power unit for like a log splitter. So there's potentially we'll be putting that back on too, and having controls that would run that. The opportunities, I think, are pretty much endless. It's basically what these were built for. The UNI tractor ran multiple different attachments, and it had all kinds of different setups. So it was built to be a power unit on wheels, just that the UNI actually drove. In this case, I won't be building anything that drives. This will just be a pull-behind display. But where I can go with it is pretty much endless. The way that the cooling was plumbed, they they had a water pump, so on the 206, the water pump sat right at the front on a regular 445 and bolts on up here. This used the earlier style from the Z and the R. And it kind of pumped it around the side and sat in a pocket back here. So I've got all of the plumbing to do the bottom return to the pump, but what I don't have is the top plumbing that would come way up and go out to the huge radiator that holds all that coolant. I would have to come up with a radiator and then some kind of a fan system, because this isn't going to have a fan on the front of it either. So probably an electric fan. And then I've got all of the exhaust components in the other shed. So everything is there. And I think it's going to be kind of neat to tear into it and take a look at it, because I know that they're not rare. They're common. Unis are still out there all over the place. You can find one. But there isn't a lot of content on YouTube about them. There isn't a lot of content on Google about them. If you Google it, you don't really see much. So I think it'd be neat to create some content to get a good look at how these things were designed, how they were put together versus the inline 206. So that's the idea. The other thing that I'm playing with right now is on the bench I've got the water pump for the RTE, and this is the root cause of all of the damage that took place. There's a felt seal in here that went bad on this, and it leaked coolant very slowly. This is like a little drip out of the bottom of this pump. So putting this back on as the state that it's in is nothing but trouble. It's not going to be a great idea. So my two options are I find that seal and replace it, which they are out there, but they're not easy to obtain, and at this point I don't know that I have the time to get one. The other option I have is the Uni came with one. So it would literally bolt right on. It's the same casting number. The only thing is I don't know what kind of shape the seal in this one is in. It does feel a little tighter than what this does, although that's not necessarily a bad thing. But putting this one on, I know would be bad. 100% chance it'll be bad. Putting this one on, 50-50 chance that it would be bad. Or I try to get the right seal and have a 99.9% chance that it's not going to leak when I put it back together and put it on. I've got a couple of weeks before this is going to get installed, so I can think about it. I can do some vetting and see what I can find. But this is a potential option to be going on to the Z, or the R, excuse me, the R, and then I'll worry about rebuilding this one to put back on the B. So that's where that sits. That's about all I have to say about the V. I think it's going to be a fun little project, and I think it's going to be a great display piece when it's done. We just have to hope that, like I said, we've got a good crankcase. That's the biggest thing. Good crankcase and good pistons. So when we tear it down, we'll keep our fingers crossed. All right. It's still very hot and humid, and that is everything that I have to report for that. That gets you a pretty good indication of what's to come on that project. So until it gets a little bit cooler and all of the other things are out of the way, that one will get put on the back burner. But if it's something that interests you, don't worry, we are going to get into it and get some content up about it. So I really do appreciate everyone that's watching the channel, that's subscribed. If you haven't subscribed yet, please think about doing it. As always, take your foot off the clutch. Thanks, everybody.